Battlefield 6 has probably had one of the best AAA multiplayer FPS launches in a long time. So far, we've had pretty minimal kinds of issues, a couple of bugs here and there. The biggest issue was pretty much the EA Play kind of fiasco that occurred where a lot of players couldn't get into the game, but EA did make an apology and kind of compensated those players pretty nicely. So pretty much what we're seeing so far is that Battlefield 6 is doing a great job, and it's definitely a lot better than what we've been seeing in other games so far. Now the thing is, Battlefield 6, I honestly wasn't 100% sure who was kind of going to win this sort of little feud in the FPS world, Battlefield or Call of Duty. This year kind of felt like a toss-up because while the Battlefield 6 hype was super high, it's kind of been historically proven that Call of Duty pretty much almost always wins, but this year is kind of one of the first years where I really think Battlefield 6 has a chance to literally beat Call of Duty, and here's what I think. Let's just dive right on into it. So this year, Call of Duty is going to be dropping its Black Ops 7 title, and I actually played through the beta, I gave my thoughts on that, and I personally felt like it was kind of boring. There were a lot of things that I really didn't enjoy about Black Ops 7, and despite the fact that they removed SBMM, they removed disbanding lobbies, they're doing all of these changes like making it look more realistic and things like that, I still feel like something is missing from Call of Duty this year, and I think it more so has to do with the fact that it's too little, too late. You see, the thing is with Call of Duty, we have an annual release cycle. Every year, it has to be fresh enough to keep your attention, because why would you want to buy the next game if it's not as good or better than the previous installment? With Battlefield, it's every couple of years, so there's more time to space out between the hit of one game and then the release of the next one. They did a lot of these changes sort of last minute, and it's kind of shocking and a little bit bizarre to me that it took basically Battlefield 6 to come swinging out in the open like that for Call of Duty to actually wake up and make genuine changes. But the thing is it even enough this year to beat what Battlefield 6 has done? Call of Duty tends to be pretty much the same game between the beta and the actual release, as is kind of the case with a lot of games these days where the beta is pretty much the final release version. People like to say, oh well, it's just the beta, wait for the final release. It's about the exact same game. The max they're gonna do is patch a couple of things here and there, but what you see is what you're gonna get at launch. Yes, Black Ops 7 did a really good job at finally removing the most annoying components of the last couple of years of the Call of Duty cycle, but we all kind of know they wouldn't have done this under really any other circumstance. Battlefield 6 came out swinging with a ton of hype, their marketing was really solid, and obviously the beta went well. For the first time in years, Battlefield had a beta that was solid because we all know what happened in the 2042 beta. That one was not solid. I played it, it was not a good one. Battlefield 6's beta, on the other hand, was significantly better, already showing the potential players that look at this game and this is what you're gonna get in the final release, and lo and behold, Battlefield 6 had over 747,000 concurrent players on Steam in its first 2 hours. It was like even just a little over an hour, within the first 2 hour window basically. Not only that, but apparently it looks like Battlefield 6 has also beat its concurrent player count overall, because according to David Serland, who is a lead producer over for Battlefield, Battlefield actually beat its concurrent player number today. We don't know exactly what numbers they're seeing. We're probably going to get some figures soon. A lot of game studios tend to release that a little bit later after launch, but quite literally, we are seeing a record-breaking thing for Battlefield right now. And we are seeing a sort of shift in the FPS world, and a big wake-up call for Call of Duty, whose execs apparently weren't too worried about Battlefield because Call of Duty is too big to fail. Well, obviously we saw this year that that's not really the case, because Battlefield 6 just showed Call of Duty what happens when all you do is listen to your player base. Because Battlefield 6 actually listened this time. You see, with Battlefield 2042, they did things that didn't make any sense. They tried to change up the game, they wanted to make it a battle royale, they included the worst possible operator type system ever. Nobody wanted to play it because it was just really a mid game. And there were additions that didn't make sense for Battlefield. Most people actually stuck with Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, and even as controversial as Battlefield 5 was, the gameplay loop was relatively what worked for Battlefield players, but 2042 did not follow the formula correctly, and what we saw was a decline in the player base and obviously a really bad year for EA. But what EA did with Battlefield Labs, with the insane amount of playtesting that they conducted for this game alone, it's the most tested Battlefield game ever. It's one of the most played Battlefield games ever. Battlefield 6 beat Apex Legends' debut on Steam. Apex Legends is a free battle royale that had about 645,000 players concurrently on Steam at its peak. Battlefield had significantly more than that. This is definitely a wake-up call for Call of Duty, if anything, because they really need to do something to fix this. I personally haven't seen interest in Call of Duty as a game be so low like it is now. Black Ops 6 seemed to be really hype in the beginning phases of it, but now I barely see anybody talking about Black Ops 6. Personally, I haven't played it in quite some time. You're not really seeing content about it. It doesn't seem like anybody actually cares about what's happening with that title. We already know as well that about 30% of Call of Duty players on Steam who tried the Battlefield 6 beta did not go back to play any Call of Duty title afterwards, meaning that this probably could be reflected as a pretty good sample size onto all of the other platforms like Xbox and PlayStation. People who played Call of Duty after trying what Battlefield had to offer are clearly going to have lost interest in Call of Duty, and that is pretty much showing in these player counts. Now you could say, of course, Steam is not the only platform where Call of Duty players are on, but still, if we're looking at these concurrent player numbers, and I'm sure we're going to be getting something soon from Battlefield about just how many people have played this game, if we look at the fact that over basically 2 million people pre-ordered Battlefield on Steam, Battlefield is seriously throwing a wrench in Call of Duty's dominance in the FPS genre. There's also Arc Raiders coming out at the end of this month. Now, it's an extraction shooter, not necessarily everybody's favorite genre, but still a whole other competition piece for Call of Duty. Sure, Call of Duty might sell well, but if nobody really cares about the game, is it really doing well? And when we look at what Black Ops 7 is doing, it could be really great for the franchise into the future. It has no SBMM, no disbanding lobbies. It seems like they're kind of listening to players, right? Well, the thing is, there's a lot of goodwill that was kind of knocked down with Black Ops 6, and for a lot of people, maybe they didn't even try the Black Ops 7 beta. Maybe they just didn't even care to, and to them, at the end of the day, it's just another Black Ops 6 looking game. We know why SBMM was added into Call of Duty. Apparently, Infinity Ward wanted to add SBMM back with Modern Warfare 2019, and since then, they've somehow convinced the executives that this is the right decision to do for Call of Duty. And since then, we've had a severe decline in the quality of these games. What's to say that with Modern Warfare 4, which comes out after Black Ops 7, so next year, that Infinity Ward isn't just going to revert all of the changes that Treyarch made all over again. You see, that's the problem when you have so many studios working on a franchise like Call of Duty does. You'd think in essence that it should be better because it will give you a fresh experience every year, because that's how it used to be. But the thing is, when we're seeing this in application, it's not working because some studios are forcing changes onto the others and kind of ruining the experience for everyone. Meanwhile, with Battlefield, they just kind of consolidated a ton of studios together and created Battlefield Labs, effectively forcing all of them to focus on producing Battlefield, and we can see that in the final product. It was a well-optimized game, launch day was actually pretty smooth, and even when there was a problem, EA immediately went to fix it, and didn't only fix it for those people who had ordered the game on the EA app and couldn't access the game. Those who were affected, they basically decided to compensate them by giving them a free battle pass and 2 sets of 12 double XP boosts, one for weapons and one for career. That's a pretty huge compensation, a whole battle pass. Battle passes are pretty much one of the biggest ways a lot of FPS games get a ton of revenue, and they just gave it away for those people because they couldn't even play the game at launch. That's a huge deal. I don't know if Call of Duty would have done that. Honestly, I really doubt they would have done that. So even with that big hiccup aside, Battlefield still did a really solid job at making sure that it was communicating with players that it actually did something right. And that kind of gives me a lot of hope for Battlefield 6 as a game. That if they keep responding to player feedback and they keep doing this kind of solid job, that it actually does stand a chance and probably could beat Call of Duty this year. And I know a lot of people think, well, people will lose interest after 1 to 2 months. We haven't even gotten into season 1 yet, and we're going to be getting content every month. month. There is not something to be bored about yet. If anything, Call of Duty is going to be boring because what's different from Black Ops 6 to Black Ops 7? Call of Duty needs fundamentally to do something to change in order to get back a lot of these lost players, and it needs to do something awesome. It needs to do something that's not just recycling a bunch of old Call of Duty games and calling it new. It needs to do something actually innovative while still sticking to its own formula in a solid way and not just copy pasting year after year after year. Also, why would anybody want to spend $70 on a DLC of Black Ops 6 when you could just buy Battlefield 6 and get a whole fresh new game experience? Call of Duty needs to pick up the pace because Battlefield is destroying them right now. But anyways, what do you guys think? Who do you think could actually win this year, Battlefield 6 or Black Ops 7? Let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications set to all so you never miss out on another upload. And that's all for today, folks.